Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a Form 8K filing from Dine Brands Global Inc. Prepare for a roller coaster. It's a bit like ordering a simple burger and finding out it comes with a side of debt refinancing and complex financial arrangements. Join our Discord channel in the video description if you like discussing this more in depth. Dine Brands Global Inc. owns Applebee's and IHOP. This report isn't about new pancake flavors or burger deals. Instead, it's all about how the company is managing its money, specifically how it's dealing with its debt. They had to refinance, essentially replacing their old debt with new debt. The main event happened around June 2025. That's when Dine Brands, through some of its smaller companies, made some big changes to how they borrow money. Let's unpack the details. Applebee's Funding LLC and IHOP Funding LLC, which are essentially smaller parts of the bigger Dine Brands Global, took out new loans. They issued what are called Class A2 notes, which are a type of debt for $600 million. Think of it as taking out a $600 million loan, but instead of going to a bank, they sold notes to investors. These Class A2 notes have a 6.720% interest rate. They also replaced their existing revolving credit like a company's credit card with a new one. The old one was called 2022-21 Class A1 notes, and this one is pretty much on the same terms in order to conform the term. To make sure the investors feel safe, Dine Brands pledged most of its important stuff as a guarantee of payment on these new loans. This includes pretty much all of their income-generating assets and their brand names for Applebee's and IHOP. All this was pledged as collateral. These notes were issued under a second, amended and restated base indenture, dated as of April 17, 2023, as amended by supplemental indenture number 05, and are subject to some paperwork, including supplement document, basically. These documents spell out the rules for these loans, like when payments are due and what happens if Dine Brands can't pay. Dine Brands needs to pay back the Class A2 notes every 3 months, but they can delay paying off the principal or the core amount of the loan if they are not doing bad. The goal is to pay off these Class A2 notes by June 2030, but if they can't, the interest rate they pay will be get higher, i.e. it is more expensive. The company also has a credit line known as Class A1 notes, where drawings can be made for up to $325 million. It's like having a credit card with a $325 million limit. The interest they pay on this credit line changes. It goes up and down depending on other things and how they borrow the money. These Class A1 notes are governed by a note purchase agreement among the co-issuers, certain special purpose, wholly owned, indirect subsidiaries of the corporation, each as a guarantor, the corporation as manager, certain conduit investors, financial institutions and funding agents, and Cooperative Rabobank UA, New York branch. The goal is to pay off this credit line by June 2030, but they can extend it for 2 more years, with 2 one-year extensions if things go well. Dine Brands also has to manage the assets that are securing these loans. This is covered in something called the management agreement. Basically, Dine Brands continues to handle the franchising, the brand names, and the day-to-day operations. Dine Brands will manage and administer the securitized assets in accordance with the terms of the management agreement, and except as otherwise provided in the management agreement. The management standards set forth in the management agreement. If something goes wrong because of how Dine Brands manages these assets, they might have to cover the costs. There are rules and limits that Dine Brands has to follow with these new loans, common for financial transactions. They need to keep a certain amount of money in reserve, and there are rules about when they can pay off the loans early. Also, if the domestic retail sales for all restaurants are below certain levels, automatic payments may be needed. Events are also attached if the A2 notes that are expected to be repaid on anticipated dates. And if they don't pay interest or principal, don't keep a proper debt service coverage, go bankrupt, or the company is in a judgment, the loans will be in default, i.e. bad. Dine Brands used the money from these new loans to pay off about $594 million they owed from a previous loan, the Series 2019-1 notes. They also used some of the money to cover the cost of making these changes and to help with general business needs. The original proceeds was allocated toward retiring $594 million of debt from 2019. Because of these changes, some old agreements were ended, including the Series 2019-1. Basically, it's like clearing out the old paperwork to make way for the new loans. Dine Brands put out a press release on June 17, 2025 to announce that they had finished refinancing their long-term debt through this securitization. If you want to see all the details for yourself, you can check out the documents attached to this report, including the base indenture, the Series 2025-1 supplement, the purchase agreement, and the management agreement. These exhibits provide more information. Now let's break down what this all means. Dine Brands essentially refinanced consolidating its debt. They are extending their payment timelines with the A2 notes to 2030, hoping that in an improving market, the debts will become manageable. But this comes with many risks like interest rate hikes or sales remaining stagnant. In that case, added interest will accrue. The use of securitization allows it to raise capital using its assets, but this can be restrictive with the added covenants. Overall, while it's a standard move in the industry, Dine Brands needs to focus on sales and managing its debt, ensuring it is in a fiscally sound zone. Alright, that's our breakdown of Dine Brands' latest filing. What's your take on these moves and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.